way. Can they be that close? Just let me stay for the record.
Hi, everybody. We will begin shortly. Please enjoy some nice music in the meantime. And do remember that if we will record this meeting, and if you do not want to be a part of the recording, you can hang up now and then go back to our website and view the meeting.
Oh, you can really view it.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Please, we'll start shortly. I hope that this music really gets you guys pumped and excited and going for the rest of our meeting. I do have to remind you that our meeting will be recorded. So if you do not want to be a part of the recording, please hang up and you can view our meeting later on in our website.
Buenos días.
All right, guys. So thank you everybody for being here with us today. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so excited to see all your faces. So let's see. We're gonna start with the first. How did you guys enjoy the music? It was awesome, right? I hope it pumped up your morning. I hope it got you going. And so in the meantime, while I start, I would like you guys to go ahead and in the chat put in your name, what city you're from, and how long you've been providing care. Okay. And also, what is one thing you look forward to in 2021? Okay. So just kind of listen to me in the background while you do that. Okay. And once again, I do have to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. So if you do not want to be a part of a recorded meeting, please hang up now, and then you can refer to our website later and view the meeting there. Okay. A couple of things that I want to go over for those of you who are not very familiar with Zoom. In order to speak, please use the raise hand function, and you can see right here on the screen where it's at. I know for a lot of you, it'll be a little different depending on what device you use to join. Okay. But also, like, if you're on the phone call and you can't see the screen, to raise your hand on the phone, you press *9. Okay. And everybody, please try to keep yourselves on mute throughout the meeting. We will take questions at the end. And also throughout our meeting, you can go ahead and input your questions into our chat. Okay. Let's see. I can read a couple of our providers who have already your chats. Let's see. I have Glorinelli Lopez from Long Beach. Hola, Glorinelli. Astrid from West Covina, provider for 17 years. Hi, Astrid. Let me see. Bridget Lopez, hi, for 20 years. So just like Bridget, Glorinelli, and Astrid did in our chat, I invite all of you to do so as well. Okay, we're going to have a kind of a long meeting, but it's okay. It's going to be a lot of information that is good for you guys. So our agenda today is going to consist of our welcome, hello, and then our 2020 wins, followed by federal, state, and county political budget updates, then CCPU bargaining update. So who's CCPU, guys? Us, right? Us providers. Then followed by how we win, and then our call to action, professional growth and development, and upcoming trainings. We'll also have a vaccine update for you, okay? And then we'll stay connected, and after we'll do the question and answer, okay? So let me just fill you in on who is CCPU. Any of you want to share in the chat who you think CCPU is? So everybody else can also read along as I'm saying. So CCPU are Child Care Providers United, right? So all of us child care providers. And we fight for quality child care services and jobs in California. We are over 40,000 family child care providers strong, the majority of whom are women of color. We are licensed family child care business owners. We are family members, friends, and neighbors, known as licensed exempt providers caring and educating children from our own family or from our community. Together, we are working to ensure every child has access to quality early learning and care, that providers receive the pay, respect, and resources we deserve. CCPU is the vehicle through which providers in 3 separate local unions in California, SEIU Local 521, SEIU Local 99, and UDW AFSCME Local 3930, can advocate for themselves and the families they serve as a single powerful organization. So 3 unions have came together to form CCPU, right? That's how powerful we are, okay? Providers belong to both their respective local unions and CCPU, okay? So if anyone ever says, oh, well, are you from SEIU? Are you from AFSCME? I'm CCPU Local 99. Okay, this structure allows us to strengthen childcare systems in our cities and counties while also building a robust statewide organization focused on setting a clear standard for uplifting both providers and the families we serve. Los Angeles and San Bernardino counties, county family childcare providers, belong to SEIU Local 99. We are the education workers union representing over 30,000 education workers from childcare, school districts like Los Angeles Unified School District, and many more, and community colleges as well. We share organizer contract info in areas where they represent. we go, okay, so as far as our agreements go, guys. Oh, let me actually, if you can look at the screen, I would totally like you guys to see this. Right here, you can see a picture of all of your organizers at Local 99, and you can also see our respected areas. We have our information here, our phone numbers, our contact info, so you can go ahead and take it down right now if you see your area and your organizer, and we can get in contact with us that way. Okay, so we're going to go over community agreements. Okay, we're going to put all the questions into the chat. Okay, we will be answering your questions there. If time permits, we will answer live questions at the end. Okay, we're hoping it does. You can also text your questions to your organizer. Okay, so remember the previous slide where I showed you who your organizers are. So any of our numbers there, you can text us your questions as well. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. If you don't do this, we will hear background noise from your end, and then everybody hears that and no one gets to be able to appreciate the meeting. We want to hear from all of you. So please step up, and those of you who have, take a step back and let the others share. Be respectful with feedback. Please, please, please challenge the idea, not the person, okay? Anything to add or drop in the chat that you think I missed? Now is the time, guys. And if there are any violations of our community agreements, we will stop the meeting and immediately address these violations and the concerns. Okay, so with that, I would totally like to thank you guys for coming in and meeting with us, and pass it on to my colleague, Silvia.
Thank you, Celeste. That was wonderful. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sylvia Carrillo, organizer with Childcare Providers United Local 99. So I'm going to talk about our victories in 2020, okay? Childcare Providers victories. So we won a historic union election. As you may know, back in July, we had our union election, and over 10,000 providers across the state casted their votes, and 90% of those votes were in favor of the union. So after a 16 years of fighting for your union, we won the union election during a pandemic. Isn't that amazing? We're going to keep talking about this because this is something great, something huge that has happened to you all. For the very first time in California, providers won the right of collective bargaining. So we also, what that means, what collective bargaining means, right? That means that you all want the right to sit down with the state and negotiate a strong union contract. Now you can negotiate around rates, around professional development, benefits, COVID protections, and more. So what those wins include, right? Last year, during the pandemic, we were able to win payment protections. So providers have the right to get paid regardless of attendance. So we also won 30 days of guaranteed payment if you had to close due to COVID. That was in 2020. So for this year, we won 14 days if any of you have to close due to COVID. And we understand that 14 days is not enough. 14 days additional to the 10 non-operational days that you already have. So right now we just have 14, but we keep fighting for more because we know that 14 days is not enough. So we also, the third thing that we have won is state set stipends for cleaning supplies. So as you may know, last year you were given some funds for cleaning supplies. And also we won stipends based on the number of subsidized children that you had during the month of July. So that means that for each child that you had through the subsidized programs, last year during the month of July, you're going to get paid around $150 per child. We also want state covering. We also want the state covering the cost of WAVE family fees. So in the beginning of this year, of this fiscal year, we were fighting over that because the state has said that for parents who remain in shelter at home, the provider was to assume the cost of the family fee. We fought back, you all organized, mobilized, and fought back, and you were able to revert that, meaning that those family fees, the state is going to cover. That's a great victory. And also, all these wins have been possible thanks to, again, your mobilization, your organization, and your leadership. And I want to congratulate you all for that. Okay, so amazingly. So I'm gonna pass it over to Lester, who is our political director. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Silvia. Muchas gracias. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lester Garcia, and I am one of the staffers here at our union, SEIU Local 99, and I work in the Government Relations Department. So part of my job is to focus on being the liaison between our members, and some of our elected officials. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the what's in store in terms of the budget. And so we're going to look at the California budget. We're going to look at the timeline. We're going to look a little bit about what's in the federal budget as it relates to childcare. And we're going to talk a little bit about the work that's been initiated at the county level as well. So I'm going to go through this, and yeah, we'll get started. All right, so really quickly, the California budget process. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the California budget process, the way that the budget works is that the governor drafts a budget, right? So creates a draft of the budget and sends it over to the legislature for review, right? So this typically happens in January. There's a second draft. I'll talk a little bit more about the details around why there's a second draft that comes out in May, right? And then part of the role of the governor is to sign the final budget. Now, on the legislature side, we have a bicameral legislature, which means that we have an assembly and we have a Senate. Now, the role of the legislature is to pass bills, make new laws, make new policies, right? But the other important thing that they do is pass the budget. So it requires the drafting of the budget from the governor, the discussion of that budget and changes to the budget by the legislature, and then once they vote on it, they send it back to the governor, who ultimately signs the final budget. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of negotiations that go around within the state legislature itself. So just to give you a sense of the sort of timeline, because this is going to be relevant to the actions that we take and all of the strategies that we employ to make sure that the needs of our membership, the parents and the students and the children that we represent, all are met, right? So in January is when the legislative session begins. So they started in December, but it really began in earnest January 11th. And the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly basically meets between now and June. And during that process, there are committees and they meet to discuss potential laws, and they vote on those potential laws and that budget. Now, some of those laws will have budget implications. So for example, if they, pass a new policy around waivers, or they pass a policy or an adjustment to the rates, all of that has a budget implication and will be reflected within that budget. Right now, in January, simultaneously, what happens is that the governor releases his first draft of a proposed budget. Now, the reason why we call it proposed budget is that it's because, number one, the legislature still has to meet and approve that budget and make changes to it. And number two, it's an estimated budget, right? So this, the governor released his proposed budget back on January 8th, and we're going to go over in a little bit what is in that budget, both the good and the bad. Now, April 15th, as we all know, is a big day. That's when your taxes are due, right? So everybody has to pay their taxes and file their taxes by April of 15th, right? So the reason why the governor's budget in January is an estimated budget is because they won't know for sure. The state of California tries to project how much they think they're going to receive back in taxes, right? Because taxes are the way that our government is funded. So then what happens is after April 15th, then the governor, the state, is able to say, okay, well, this is how much we actually collected in taxes, right? So sometimes it's more than what was anticipated back in January, and sometimes it's less, right? And so what that means is then there needs to be adjustments made to that budget. If it's more, and usually governors try to be conservative in that January budget, right? Because you don't want to overpromise and then taxes come in and it's less, and you have to start going back and making cuts, right? So you try to stay conservative. So after April, after taxes are in, all the tax receipts are in, all the bills have been paid or collected, I should say, then we have what we call the governor's May revise. This usually happens kind of second week of May, sometime on or before May the 15th, right? And so the governor then does what they call a May revise. So goes back, makes adjustments to the budget, and sends to the legislature a second draft of the budget. Right now, in the meantime, the legislature has been working with that first draft of the budget to try to figure out what are the places where they want to push and pull or move things around. Right now, the legislature is required by state law to pass legislation by June 30th. This wasn't always the case. But voters years back approved a measure that said if the legislature doesn't pass their budget by June the 30th, then the legislators don't get paid. So you better believe they've been passing an on-time budget every year since by June 30th. Now, what does this mean, that June 30th deadline and this whole process? What does it mean for our local government at the county level, at the city level, the school districts that Local 99 represents? It means that all of those other, the county, the city, school districts, all of those other government entities below the state, they are all working off of estimations because they don't know what the final budget is going to be once it's voted on. Now, that being said, by May, we have an idea, right? So May typically, as we think about politically and mobilization wise, May is usually like by that time, the budget is almost set. So imagine like in January, they pour the concrete, right? And it starts getting harder and harder and harder. And by the time June comes around, it's pretty much it's set, right? This is it, it's concrete, and this is what's moving forward, right? And so we say this because this is a really important thing to keep in mind, because this window here between January and May is when we really need to ramp up our work in terms of advocacy and pushing the legislature. And one thing to keep in mind is that we're not the only ones that know about this timeline. We're not the only ones that want things out of the budget, right? We're competing not only with other workers or other essential workers, we're also competing with massive corporations that have deep pockets, that give donations to legislators, and they're out there pushing back against some of the things that we want, right? So I just want to put that in context. We'll go over the budget itself, and then we'll come back to some of the steps that our local is going to take to make sure and advocate on behalf of our members and the children that we represent. All right, so moving us along. So a few highlights on the California state budget, and I limited this to childcare specifically, right? Childcare and early education. So this is part of the good, right? So the good thing is the governor is proposing $55 million for the 2021-2022 fiscal year for COVID-19 relief. Now, one thing just really quickly, for those of you who may not be aware, is they operate off of a fiscal, right? And I think maybe some of our providers might as well. But their year for the state starts July 1st and ends on June 30th, right? So it's not a January 1 to December 31st, but rather July 1st to June 30th, that's the year that they're looking at. So the budget that they're discussing now, the budget that will eventually be passed, goes into effect July 1st. So there's $55 million for that July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 for COVID relief. Another $21 million in there for our current year. So if you think about it, we're sort of a little bit past the halfway point of the current fiscal year, right? So we're still in January, which puts us a little bit 6 months, a little bit past the 6-month mark of the current fiscal year. So the governor's proposing $21 million to fund vouchers for the rest of this year that we're still in, right? $44 million ongoing for 4,500 additional slots for children's age 0 to 6. Okay. Now, those are some of the highlights within the state of California. We're going to move on to some of the good that's in the federal. Now, the federal government obviously has a much bigger budget, right? And so when it comes to childcare, there's some stuff that they put in, but the federal government really relies on the states to fund their own school systems and education systems, right? So the bulk of the budget, at least on the school side, comes from the state, but the federal government plays a critical role in making sure that childcare continues to go because a lot of the subsidy programs are connected to federal programs. So I'm going to run through these. We're not going to go into a whole lot of detail because we want to get to the part
Yeah.
where if
Yeah, they
folks
were
can just
long.
go on mute, please, or maybe one of the co-hosts can mute everybody. There we go. Thank you. Um, all right. So on the federal side, the good news is the federal government is if you remember, there's the CARES Act that passed last year, and then in December there was another part of the funding that was passed. Right now, that funding is has been approved by the federal government and made its way over to the state. So there's about $1 billion that's been set aside for early care and education. Out of that $1 billion, the governor has proposed so taking these federal dollars and assigning 300 million to childcare. Right. So what that does is it provides up to, and these are up to numbers, right? So it doesn't say that there's going to be 30 million, but up to 30 million will be spent. Some of that will be based on need. Some of it will be based on how these things get allocated and how they get rolled out, right? So up to 30 million for family fee waivers. You just heard Silvia talk about that being one of our major wins for last year and something that impacts every single one of our providers. Up to 35 million to support alternative payment programs. This one is really focused also on migrant children and how they access childcare. So especially relevant for our family childcare providers in the Central Valley. Up to $100 million for alternative payment programs to extend childcare services for essential workers, right? So creating this fund and these payment programs to be able to extend this for essential workers. And that's where our work around expanding Carina Care is really going to be critical because we want to make sure that those essential workers are putting their kids into our family childcare providers programs, right? And making sure that those they're putting it into union programs, right? Now, next up, we have up to $15 million in stipends to assist licensed childcare providers for the cost of reopening. So these are folks that have had to close due to the pandemic, or some of the money lost due to low attendance or temporary closures, right? So that's up to $15 million. $90 million for stipends for all subsidized childcare providers to address increased cost of care and expenses. So we all know in one of the cases that we've been making at the bargaining table is that it costs more money for a childcare provider to operate during COVID. You have to buy PPE, you have to buy more cleaning supplies, you have to clean more often. And so all of that is increasing your overhead, right? So this is a part of the good news in terms of what's coming from the federal government. Now, some of this has reached the state. There's a question as to where it is on that pipeline, but we're going to get into that part in a bit. So here's the battle, right? Or at least the challenge that we face might be a better way of talking about it. And that is that the budget in the state from the state doesn't account for our contract, right? So sometimes, like in our dealings with school districts, when we go in and the school district knows that they're going to negotiate with us, they'll create a cushion for themselves within the budget to say, okay, if we negotiated with every single union a 2% raise or a 3% raise, here's the money that we're setting aside for bargaining contracts, right? There's usually more money outside of that, but there's an attempt to say, okay, this is what we're setting aside. There's no sign of that in this budget. There's no set aside for negotiating with us. Now, it doesn't mean that the money doesn't exist. We're going to continue to push, but it's concerning that the state isn't forward thinking in that way, right? There's no real money from the state itself. So from the state, remember, we pay federal taxes and we pay state taxes, right? So out of that federal money, we're seeing some of this money come through, right? And from the taxes that we pay in the federal government. From the state taxes that we pay, we're not really seeing a whole lot of money to directly address the closures. You saw in there that there's proposed budget to expand 4,500 slots, 4,500 slots for children age 0 to 6. However, what we know is that 6,000 family childcare providers in the state of California have closed their doors between March and December of last year. That equates to 60,000 slots that have been lost. And so this budget isn't really addressing that crisis, isn't looking to fill that whole. Now, some of that federal government money might help offset some of that, but the fact of the matter is the state, or at least it's our contention, the state needs to take more responsibility and put more money into this. The next one is the priority given to building out transitional kinder programs in time of crisis for childcare providers. Now, this is not a debate as to whether or not transitional kindergarten is needed. It's not a debate on whether or not transitional kindergarten is important. The concern that we have here is that there's $500 million set aside by the state to directly fund transitional kindergarten. And what's been set aside for childcare amounts to somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million. So there's a big gap there. And our whole thing is twofold. Number one is our providers are closing. We're in a crisis. We're spiraling down. The ship is sinking. We need to help shore up that ship, close the leaks so we can be floating again, right? Instead, what's happening is this ship is sinking over here, and they're out here building another ship, a new ship that's not for the same folks, right? And when I say not for the same folks, it takes us to our second challenge, right? Is the transitional kindergarten might be a good program for those children at that age. However, the budget really isn't addressing the high need of children from age 0 to 3. We don't see the same sort of investment in that 0 to 3 age range as we're seeing on that transitional kindergarten 4 to mid-level 4 to 5 age range. And 0 to 3 is frankly the toughest and sometimes more costly to take care of than it is on the older kids, right? The other challenge on the federal government, so far only 300 million out of the 1 billion allocated to address childcare and early education has actually been set aside, right? The other challenge that we have is an uncertain time frame and outcome with new funds. So we right now, as you all have seen, Joe Biden hit the ground running. He's created a plan that includes $1.9 trillion from everything from COVID relief to potential amnesty around immigration, or at least a pathway for non-citizens, and in our undocumented families. And there's some money in there for childcare as well. Now, the challenge around that is that it's uncertain what's actually going to pass. And then once it does pass, there's always the slow and ineffective rollout has been a challenge that we've been working with, right? We found sometimes, and this was true last year, and we had to mobilize around it because the money had been set aside, right? It was like $100 million that we won for PPE for family childcare providers, but it took the state something like 2 or 3 months to actually get that money and get those supplies into the hands of our providers. And in the meantime, like I said before, the ship is sinking, our providers are closing their doors, right? So there's a lot of opportunities here within the budget, but there's a lot of challenges that we're going to have to take head on. And as we all know, power concedes nothing without demand. It's going to take all of us banding together, staying together in union, mobilizing to demand better, right? Now, I'm going to go really quickly over our union's legislative priorities. And as we know, Education Workers United, SEIU Local 99, we represent over 50,000 education workers in LA and San Bernardino County. So that includes our classified employees in LAUSD, in Compton, in Linwood, in the LA Community College District, Santa Monica, Malibu. We go up to Ventura Community College District and other smaller school districts around the county. And it also includes about 15,000 family childcare providers that we represent, right? So these are legislative priorities that have been pushed by all of us, by our union, and we're going to continue to push in the next legislative cycle. So number one is revenue. A lot of people on here worked really hard to try and pass Prop 15. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. However, it doesn't mean that we can't still pass revenue. We have a 2/3 majority in the state legislature, and we need that legislature to step up and make sure that corporations and the rich are paying their fair share of taxes in this in our state, right? Next one is reopening the economy. You all know this. We know this. You can't reopen the economy if childcare providers are closing their doors and if schools aren't funded the way they're supposed to be funded, right? Or the way they should be funded so we can provide clean, safe, and sanitary conditions for every single child. So we need additional money for testing, vaccines, closing the digital divide, and layoff protections for our brothers and sisters that work in the K-12 and community college district setting. On the school district side, we're also pushing for standards and around staffing and money for clean, safe, and sanitary schools. Our schools before the pandemic were not in good shape. Our staffing levels before the pandemic were not in good shape. For example, LAUSD has what they call a minimum standard, lo mínimo of cleanliness that they need to do. And they only fund that at 40%. They provide less than half the funding to make sure that our schools are clean. We know now, or we've been saying for years, and the public knows now, that keeping schools safe and sanitary is a matter of public health and a key strategy in stopping the spread of this virus. The other part of our legislative priorities is support for family childcare providers. And that looks a whole bunch of different ways. And we've talked about our victories in 2020, and some of those we need to fight for in 2021 and moving forward. So around our family fees, we got to look at rates. We got to look at every single aspect of what it takes to provide a clean, safe, and sustainable childcare in each of our communities. And we need to make sure that the state legislature is putting some money behind that. The other thing, really quickly, on the K-12 side, increased money for our special ed students or moderate to severe students with moderate to severe disabilities, and money to continue our summer bridge program, which is a program that we won with the state to help those school employees who don't get work over the summer. All right, so how are we going to accomplish this? Aside from everything you're all going to be discussing and all the mobilizations that we're going to do at the table, we need to be advocating and lobbying of our state legislators and our federal legislators, right? So we need to educate our lawmakers of the crisis facing childcare providers and K-14 workers, right? Some of these folks you would think would have a better understanding in terms of how our childcare system works and how it's failing our childcare providers today and how it's failing our members in the K-14 settings, right? We need to go in there and we need to show them, we need to put some faces and some stories in terms of what you all have been doing, how you've been sacrificing to make sure that our children continue to serve. We've heard from many of our providers that frankly, right now you're in the red. You're not making a profit at all, right? But you continue to do what you do on behalf of the children and families because you know that you play a critical role in the life of that worker who can't go to work without you, that family that can't function without you. And we need to go in there, we need to demand more money to support our providers, to support our K-14 schools, and we need them to act now, right? Now, one thing really quickly on the budget, there's going to be this year, there's going to be 2 phases of it. We're going to have the June 30th final budget, but the governor is trying to really push, he's trying to force those schools to reopen, right? And what we're saying is that if you want the schools to reopen, that they need the resources necessary to make sure that they're clean and safe, right? And so he's trying to jam through a lot of this budget related to childcare and schools within the next within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So we got to mobilize now, and we got to demand action now, right? On the LA County side, right? So again, the LA County isn't going to be able to, they're going to pass an estimated budget until they have a final budget from the, from the state. In the meantime, we've started some of those lobby visits with the county, right? And some of the things that we're pushing for with the county, and we've actually came as a result of some of those meetings, are, we're pushing for vaccines and for financial support, among other things. I'll go a little bit more into what else we're doing, right? So the good news is our providers and school employees are expected to start vaccinations in early February. This is the LA County Department of Health. There's other places that have their own Department of Health that have hopefully started a little bit earlier, like Pasadena and Long Beach, right? So in order to make sure that all of our providers have all of the information they need, we're going to be hosting, our union will be hosting webinars with the Workforce Development Department, as well as Department of Health, to provide update on vaccinations, what sort of paperwork you're going to need, and all that other good stuff, right? Now, the good news that's on the horizon in terms of the budget with the LA County is that they're revisiting their small business grants. The bad news is all those small business grants, it's over. Those programs are over. The money's been given out, right? But with the money coming in from the Biden administration, right, or that we hope comes in from the Biden administration and from the state, we'll have the opportunity to influence what those new programs look like and address some of the things that the county passed that we weren't able to access those loans. So for example, some of the grants that they did in the past required a minimum of 5 employees, right? We know childcare providers don't typically have 5 assistants with them, right? So we want to change some of those rules. So to that end, we are working on some of these lobbying visits. We had Justine, Kim, and a few other of our providers. We've met with Hilda Solis's office. We've met with Sheila Kuehl's office. We'll be meeting with Holly Mitchell soon, Janice Hahn, Catherine Barger. We're pushing them at the local level to make sure that our providers have priority access to retail and supplies. So we've talked about being able to access Costco at different times before the general public, and also having flexibility around the amount of supplies. We know a lot of these stores have put restrictions on the amount of Lysol you can buy, the amount of paper towels and other sort of PPE that you can buy. We want those restrictions lifted. We want some flexibility for that for our childcare providers. The other part is vaccine support, making sure that our providers know where to go, know how to access, and have the support they need to get themselves and their assistants vaccinated. We're pushing for more grant support and promoting childcare within Korean care. The good news is it looks like the supervisors we've met with so far are open to this and are willing to work with us on figuring out what this looks like. A couple things really quickly before I jump off, because I think I'm over time already. One thing that came out of that out of those meetings is meeting on following up with some of the programs that LA County is rolling out. So just this week, LA County put out, and we'll drop the link into the chat in a little bit. But they put out a business stabilization program. So these are loans, right? Very different from a grant. So I just want to be clear. These are loans. They're supposed to be low interest, so they're 3.25%, but they range anywhere from 50,000 to 3 million. That our childcare providers can qualify for if you operate within LA County and if you've been operating for at least the last 2 years. And you could do this to cover some of the just general business expenses, or if you're a provider who in the last year had to take out a loan in order to get yourself through, and had a loan at a higher rate than 3.25%, you could actually use this program to pay off that loan, and then you get more flexibility around this loan as well. There's 2021 rent relief. So this is currently under development. Again, stuff that we got to push for. A lot of our providers or some of our family members are dealing with this. We'll drop these links into the chat to see when the application becomes available. And the last thing here, vaccine eligibility. So there's a new pilot system to know when it's your turn to be able to come out and participate and receive your vaccine. And there are some resources there. And that is it for me, Celeste. That's my presentation, and I will turn it back to you. Thank you.
Hi, Lester. Thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to pass it on to Maria and Diana.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Maria Duque, union representative with SEIU 499. We're going to be going over updates with regards to negotiations, and I'm actually going to hand it over to Diana Robles, one of our executive board members, and also she's part of our negotiations team.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Robles. I'm a provider for 17 years here in the city of Baldwin Park. Wanted to give you some updates. CCPU negotiate team officially began to bargain with California on December 9, 2020. Top bargaining priorities are based on the survey that all you providers submitted. COVID-related proposals to protect providers were the first items to be introduced. Next bargaining date with the state is on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. However, COVID-related negotiations are currently at a standstill, and we need your support. So we're calling you to action. Over 1,500 calls were made to the governor. Local 99 providers also participated in a social media day of action this past Thursday. Great job, providers. February 28, 2021, we want to continue to put pressure on California and Gavin Newsom. Unity Break will be on Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. Providers, children, and parents will create signs, a single banner, or anything similar that reads, do what's fair, support childcare, statewide CCPU action. So I ask each and every one of you fellow providers, please help us in the chat, create or give us your ideas, what we can do to help our negotiation team to advocate and take more action to make sure that the state is going to listen and take us seriously. So in the chat, if you can put any ideas that you might have, but I do urge you to also contact your local legislators, your local elected officials within your city, which is your mayor, city council, water board, and school board. Get them involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And I did want to add on, so with terms of the unity break, because of the success of the calls made to the governor and that action that did, sorry, that's my dog right there, the action that did take place on past Thursday, we have transitioned from the unity break being on Tuesday to a social media day of action support of the negotiations team on Wednesday. So Diana and the folks, as mentioned, will be meeting with the state of California on Wednesday once again. And so we are asking family childcare providers on Wednesday to show solidarity and unity for the negotiations team. So get on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and ensure that you're posting a selfie with your CCPU union shirt. And we're continuing with the same messaging, right? Ensuring that the state of California understands how important all of you are as essential early educators in California. And we're going to continue to hashtag the importance of childcare and also Gavin Newsom on both his personal account and the governor account. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, I'd like to pass it on over to Aaron and Silvia.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Gonzalez. I'm a external organizer from San Fernando Valley and Antelope Valley. And now we're talking about how we win. And Silvia is going to talk about that. Silvia?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Silvia Hernandez. I am from the negotiation team as well. We are going to talk about what is a contract action team, which is called parentheses CAT. It is important for us to win a strong contract. So the contract action team is a dedicated group of member leaders who are at the center of leveraging our collective power during negotiations. CAT members communicate regularly with our other providers in our area about the progress of negotiations. If the state is dragging its feet at the bargaining table, the contract action team will lead us into action to demonstrate our unified strength as a union and put pressure on the state so that we can win what we deserve. As well, what are the requirements for the contract action team responsibilities? Next slide. The responsibility for CAT, it would be 1, to be a union member, 2, be a good communicator, 3, ability to have for the weekends, evenings, and emergency meetings if needed. Number 4, can we use or learn how to use Zoom? 5, willing to work. 6, mobilize providers and others in support of a strong contract. Number 7 will be, can you work through difficult conversations? Number 8, advise negotiations team once a month on proposals. Number 9, be committed to grow our union. And number 10, mobilize providers to continue to build a strong union. As a provider and as a member of the union, I would like to tell you, all fellow providers, ladies and gentlemen, that we do need your help. We are stronger together and united. When we are united, we need to be one team and working together. We need to step up. This is the time for us to step up for what we deserve. We've been working for so many years with no benefits, And and when that's so sad, I'm sorry, but it just gets me really sad that we don't get recognized as hardworking providers, essential providers that we are. So I ask you if you guys can be join us with this new CAT member. I would appreciate if you guys would help us. We need to see more of our providers out and have a positive. I believe that this is our year to make all these positive changes as all of us together as a member. And we need to show that we are, you know, are united and we can do many changes because this is the time that we need you as the provider, as our union, to become solid. And I please beg you and appreciate any help that you guys can give us because it's the negotiation team and bargaining team. We are just a few, but having support will give us more time for us to communicate with other providers because it's very hard. And with your help, it will make it easier for all providers to get all this information out to everyone. Thank you. Adam?
Thank you, Sylvia. I want to add basically like support, like Sylvia said. This contract action team is a team work between the negotiation committee and the rest of the members. The team is responsible to again to pass the message. Depends what action we need to do. So yeah, and our goal is to the much as possible more providers be a member of this contract action team. Thank you.
I'd also like to invite all of you into the chat. Giovanna has shared the links to our forms. If you guys want to be members of the CAT team, the forms are there. Please look at them. Give them give yourself a try. I know some of you might feel like, oh no, I can't do this. Like there's no way. Trust me, you can do it, and we can help you. We can help you come out of that shell and really become the leader that you probably think you're not, but there's a leader in you. There's a leader in all of you, or there's an advocate in all of you, or else you would not be running your own childcare, right? So please go ahead and look at the chat. We'll try to share it again for those of you that might have lost it in the chat. And with that, I'd like to pass it. Thank you very, very much, Aaron and Silvia. And I'd like to pass it on to Nanette and Keenan.
Hi, everyone. Actually, I'd like to just hand it over to Keenan. Keenan, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I hope everyone's doing well out there today. This is a call to action. Okay. We've been doing a lot. A lot's been going on just within the past year. And the union, our union, has been steadfast in finding solutions and finding sources for us and to provide support. So I noticed in the chat, one of the concerns was no one is supporting us. Well, we're supporting each other, and that's where it starts. So one of the ways that we're doing that is we are taking action. You know, we're demanding the visits with key state legislators. And then one of the other things that we've done just within the past week is the social media campaign where we all, as providers, we gathered our posters and our signage, and we posted that stuff on Facebook so everyone can see. We've made calls to the governor by the thousands, and we always need to do more of that. We need to keep doing more and more of that. And in greater numbers, there's greater success. Whenever you've had you know, something that you were trying to attain, there was some sort of protest behind it. There were some voices. There were parades in the streets, voices being heard. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we need to do. We need to treat this as we're going to war here. And this is a cry for war when us as providers are uniting against people who are against us. And we have to constantly bring that attention to childcare providers statewide, because no one, like you said in the chat, no one is listening. The louder we are, we're forcing them to hear us. So it takes you as providers who are currently members to go gather your fellow providers out there who have not heard the news yet and bring them on with us and let them know that we are here to support them and that we will not leave anybody behind in the field of battle, because that's what this is. And it's going to take each and every one of us to continue and reach out and to grow our coalition so that we can be stronger in battle. So with that being said, I, as a member of the negotiations team, I'm reaching out. I'm also counting on you all as providers, as are all of the members of the negotiations team. We need your cries behind us. So can I count on you? Can we count on you to get out there and do this? Make the steps, get the steps to take, to go out there and recruit your fellow members to grow our battle, our coalition. Can we count on you to do that? Just put a yes in the chat. Let us know that you're ready to go.
Wonderful, Guadalupe. Thank you for your yes. Justine, that's right. Sí se puede. Thank you, Keenan. Can I pass it on over to Giovanna now, please?
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Giovanna. I'm a local organizer. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we also want to hear from you. What types of training do you need to be able to help grow your union and your union power and be stronger? For example, do you want to have more trainings on how to talk about the union to fellow providers, how to advocate for yourselves when you have an issue with an agency or licensing? So what types of trainings do you need so that you can be a better advocate for yourself, the children, working families, and fellow union providers? And at this point, we welcome you to open up the chat, which you can maybe see on the 3 dots for under more, open chat, or on the bottom panel. Also, what skills, trainings, or just Zoom meetings do you feel you need to be successful in running and operating your childcare business? So I see Yesenia Sosa says we need more support from the union, but tell us, Yesenia, specifically, what type of support? What does that support look like specifically? Do you think we need to have a meeting to go over payment rights, how to calculate your invoice, how to write an appeal for licensing, or how to update your Zoom background, What is it that you think, just thinking about where do you see providers and how can you open up those conversations? Because as we've learned throughout this meeting is that we have a lot of work to win a strong union contract, and we're only going to win it if we are able to communicate better with our working families and fellow union members. So I see Astrid, how to advocate with licensing and agencies. Awesome. How to create a contract, and it's okay to charge me quality counts and not okay. So I would ask Justine if you can elaborate about it's okay to charge me quality counts and not okay, and not how to create a contract. Okay. How do we fill out the forms for the grants, loans? Yes. And we will talk more about the grants shortly. So, keep the suggestions coming. How do we feel? Okay, yeah, we're done. Awesome. So keep the suggestions coming so that we can know where to focus our work, right? The union only works if we are communicating with each other. So the next slide. How do we talk to local elected officials and how can we get them to support us? The programs, how to and where to when programs are not following the state guidelines like payments. Awesome. I see more great suggestions. How to train providers with technology. Yes, I was advocating for yourselves. Awesome. So in respects to the technology, we have a new committee that it's a technology support for providers. And we want to hear from you specifically, what type of technology trainings do you want? So a survey was emailed to you on Monday morning, and we will also share it on the chat. It's very important that we hear your input. Based on the survey, we will prioritize what workshops. So please let us know. And if you have specifically, I really want this type of training that's not included in the survey, we also, you can feel free to chat it in. So awesome. I would want to, okay. Astrid says she would like to work something out with agencies to pay weekly in advance for childcare services. So that's something we would need to negotiate, right? Awesome. Thank you, Celeste, for sharing the links for the surveys. Up next, yes. Alrighty, so I saw in the chat that people mentioned support regarding the business grants and loans. So the California Relief Grant will reopen. Round 2 opens on February 2 and it closes on February 8th. And then, this is a grant, so you do not need to pay it back. And it's an amazing application. Well, free money, it's very important. So just go ahead and apply for it. If you already received a grant, you are still eligible. At the very end, there will be a question asking you if you already received a grant. And if you select yes, you will have to indicate how much was that grant. So you're still welcome. And then also there's business loans from the Small Business Administration. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan reopened, and you can either receive an advance or a loan. We are unsure if you can reapply, but this loan is available to low-income community business owners and more who have experienced more than 30% reduction in gross revenue during an 8-week period. The other loan available is, next slide, please. The Paycheck Protection Program. There's a first and a second draw. This one is reopening, and a reminder that the PPP program is not taxable income. So this is why it's very important that you just take advantage of these loans that are available, because you do not need to report it in your taxes, and providers already pay a lot during taxes, right? And you do not need to have employees to apply for the PPP or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan or the grants. You are self-employed, so you yourself, you're one employee. You are still eligible if you also receive the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The deadline for the Paycheck Protection Program is March 31st, and you apply directly from the financial institutions. So your banks, or there are also online lenders. A lot of providers had positive experience with PayPal. Tom Copeland also recommends Biz2Credit or Kabbage. So the Small Business Administration will deposit the money directly into your bank account, and you have 8 to 24 weeks to spend the money. After you've spent the money, you can apply for forgiveness through lender. And the first draw is available for first-time applicants. And 2020, those who already received the Paycheck Protection Plan but did not get forgiveness by 12/27 can also apply during the first draw. And the second draw may be available for those who did apply for forgiveness in the last year, but you must have shown reduction of at least 25% in gross income from 2019 to 2020. So again, this is not taxable income, and it's a great opportunity to take advantage, especially during these difficult times, and there is a forgiveness portion. So that's the exciting part. Alrighty, next. Also, please save the date. Thanks to your union and paying your union dues, we are able to host Tom Copeland, an expert in childcare taxes. This workshop will be on Saturday, March 20th. The exact time is still to be determined, but it will be in the morning. So please save the dates and start informing providers. Next. Also, friendly reminder, your CPR is free or included as a benefit in your membership. So the 28th of February, we will be having it in English in the City of Commerce. March 7th, English in Glendale. March 14th, Spanish in Glendale. April 10th, English in Arcadia. May 1st in Long Beach. June 6th, English in Commerce. July 24th, English in Riverside. The space is very limited. It's only a capacity of 6 providers to enforce social distancing, and it's at the Red Cross offices. So if you need to RSVP, make sure you communicate with your organizer, and priority goes to members and providers. And then if you have assistants, and we were unable to fill a class, if it's not in capacity, then assistants are welcome to join and register for $50. But providers and members get priority over assistants. Next, please. And it's Melissa Imaida.
Awesome. Thank you, Giovanna. Good morning, everyone. I would like to provide some vaccine changes that were made this week. First of all, Governor Newsom announced on Monday that the state will be transitioning to prioritizing age for COVID-19 vaccine eligibility plus, and certain essential workers receive their shots. This change is being done in an effort to scale up the distribution more quickly. What this means is that priority level 1B still exists, but with some modifications. The rest of the priority levels no longer exist. This is very important. This does not impact providers' priority level assignment. So as you know, 1A is for healthcare. The tier 1A is for healthcare. Tier 1B includes firefighters, childcare, education, food and agriculture. So these people were not going to be impacted on the priority level, but everybody else after this will now be prioritized based on age. The governor also announced a statewide booking system called myturn.ca.gov. This system is currently being piloted in Los Angeles and San Diego counties with the goal of making it available statewide by early February. So this system allows people to input their basic information and learn if they are currently available to receive the vaccination, and if so, allow them to schedule a shot. People who are not eligible yet can provide information on age and occupation and register to receive an email or text alert about when they are available to schedule. Let me change the slide. So again, it's myturn.ca.gov. So if you guys want to take a little screenshot, picture, go ahead. But also you could visit your county website and book your appointments there. It might actually redirect you to myturn.ca.gov, but that's something that you're able to do. But please note that there are some cities like Long Beach and Pasadena that have their own health departments. So you might be able to get vaccinated through there and actually a little quicker. So for instance, right now, LA County is currently vaccinating phase 1A healthcare workers, and 65 city is currently vaccinating childcare and education. So if you live in Long Beach, make sure that you click on the link to schedule your appointment. And in the city of Pasadena, they're currently in phase 1A and 65 plus. And in their website, it says that childcare and education are going to be next in line. And for San Bernardino County, they're currently, providing the vaccinations to healthcare workers, 65 plus, and phase 1 firefighters and police. And then after that, it will be childcare providers. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody had this information. And just like, again, a reminder, right now the vaccine is optional. And I know there's been a lot of issues with the supply of the vaccines. And also a lot of vaccines are going to waste, especially because some people, they'll make up their appointments. And because, the vaccines only last for a few hours, they have to throw many issues that we're struggling, but we continue to advocate, we'll be able to, move forward. And now I'm going to pass it back to Giovanna. And Natasha Smays.
Hi. Okay, so we invite you all to please stay connected. We have 2 Facebook pages. Our statewide page is CCPU California. And this is your go-to page to stay up to date on how negotiations are going. The negotiations team will be providing updates through videos or posts. And it's also a great way to build camaraderie across the state. And then we also have our local regional Facebook private group. It's 99CCP. And this is exclusive to Los Angeles and San Bernardino county providers. And this is a great opportunity for providers to share local resources available in our respective counties. And also any meetings that we host at Local 99. We also have 2 websites where you can stay informed on how your union dues are being invested. And that's our statewide page is childcareprovidersunited.org. And our local website is SEIU99.org/childcare for all, or that long URL. And our recording will be on our Local 99 website, and we can repost it on our Local 99 Facebook, 99CCP. Awesome.
Wonderful, team. That was great. So how are we doing on time? I want to make sure that we respect all of our providers' time. But I would like to go ahead and go through some of the questions that we had in the chat that we've been answering throughout our meeting. Can someone give me a time check, please?
11:21.
Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple of things. The vaccine, I had a question, when will providers start getting vaccinated? It is our understanding that should happen early to mid-February. This is what we've heard from public health. Also, let me look at my notes here. Bridget was closed for 30 days and didn't get paid. Bridget, I would really like for you to follow up with your organizer, especially because this was due to COVID. And let's see. Can someone help me? Yolanda Milton wanted to know when San Bernardino gets their vaccines. Does somebody have the information for that?
Hi, so let me go back to that slide so you could get the information. So this is the link that you can go, and as of now, right now, they're already in tier 1B, where firefighters, police, childcare, and education are in. So right now they're already doing firefighters and police. So we're expecting in the next few weeks to move into childcare and education. But the best thing is to go to the link and check it often to see, you know, when childcare is next, because they usually update the website. So that's.
Thank you, Melissa. Giovanna, where will this meeting be posted, the recording of it?
It's gonna be on our website. So SEIU99.org/childcare for all. And we can repost it on our Facebook, our local Facebook at 99CCP for childcare provider.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there anything else that any of my teammates see on the chat that I might have missed?
Yes, Amparo was asking, will information be emailed?
Amparo, if you need certain information, you can reach out to your organizer. We try to email you guys with as much information as possible. And also all this information that we gave here, you can also go back to our website and you will be able to see this whole recording once again.
Awesome. And then
I have a question from Irene that says, can my husband get vaccinated at the same time I do, since he lives in the same household where I run my daycare? At this time, our understanding is that no, it will be the provider unless your husband is also a part of your license. And then after that, they will start transitioning into age phases, but that is still in the works and we still need more information on that. Oh, but Justine also shared, as long as he is in your roster as an employee and you have valid documents, Irene, he should. Also check with your city. They are all doing it different. That's absolutely right, Justine. It's gotten a little confusing because, for example, Pasadena and Long Beach have their own health departments. So they are doing it different than LA County, right? It's slightly different. So it varies a lot. Elsa also advised to write a letter for your husband as an assistant.
No, they actually have to have, they're requiring not just a letter anymore because of people taking the immunizations without, at the wrong time. So that you actually have to be on the roster. If you need the roster, the website is updated. So you could go on your Guardian website and you should be able to obtain your roster from there. So click on your Guardian website, the one you signed up for with the state, and it will have your complete roster there of your employees.
Thank you, Justine. And please don't forget to fill out the surveys, everybody. We have shared them in the chat. We can share them again. Can one of my colleagues please post the links again on the chat? Remember, these surveys are very important. This is how we know what it is that you need help with, where we can help you, how we can better, bring out your leadership skills. Can someone please mute themselves? And don't forget about the CAT team. It's very, very important. This team, we're hoping that is going to be a closer link between our negotiations team and our whole field. Once again, we will help you develop all these skills that you have that you probably don't know you have. Trust me, you're doing so much as a provider now, and there's so many skills that you have that are there, and you're probably a little afraid, but we're going to help you bring those out, okay? And remember, this is a fight for us. This is a fight for not only ourselves as providers, for our whole industry, for the children that we service, and for their families too. So we need to really get it together, guys. Come on, let's bring it out of you. We know we can break those little shells apart and help you out, okay? And with that, because I want to respect everybody's time, I want to thank you all for being here with us today. And please, please stay safe. Remember, we have to stay united. We have to stay strong. Talk to your fellow provider about our union, because this is our union. This is a union for providers. This is our sisterhood, our brotherhood. Justine and Deanna have also shared their information in the chat, as well as Sylvia. You feel free to reach out to them with any concerns, any help that you may need. All of your organizers, we're here to help you as well. And please just stay united, stay strong, and remember that together we can make a change. Si se puede, right? Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll give you the message.
Thank